All right. So, have you ever gotten that text that says, "Hey, girls' night, we're going to go out, we're going to have drinks and dinner, all the things," and you immediately start thinking about one, your financial goals that you're working really hard on. Two, how much is this going to cost? And then there is that whole extra layer. If you're like myself, the ADHD side where you're like, I want to get together with my friends, but I'm also worried about letting people down. So today's episode is for you if you are navigating those things of friendships and relationships, but also trying to stay on target with your financial goals at the same time. And then that thing called rejection sensitivity dysmorphia. So we're going to talk about a little bit about that today. So stick around. Okay, so this is a really interesting topic because one, this is something that I struggled with a lot when we were getting our debt elimination journey started was my husband and I, we wanted to honor our goals of, getting to our debt free moment, but also we wanted to maintain the relationships that we had in our life. And, relationships, they take time. There's an investment there, not just of time, but also, the activities that you do and the things and the experiences that you enjoy together. And so some of those things we had to have some serious heart to heart conversations with ourselves, but then we had to have those conversations with the people in our lives. I'm talking with you about, especially if you are in the ADHD world and your brain does not respond to things like this in a neurotypical way. Because for myself, if you're brand new to the show, this is a new revelation for myself. In the last couple of years, I was diagnosed with ADHD. And a lot of the money decisions, a lot of just the social stuff, like life just was really challenging, but in ways that I was like, this should not be so hard, especially because I had a degree in economics. Like I knew this stuff, but then applying it to my life was very different. There was a big disconnect. And so that's what I'm passionate about sharing on this show. And so one of those things is these social environments and these social interactions and these moments where we want to honor both our goals and our relationships. And so what do we do? So we get into these places where we have this fear of disappointing people. We want to please certain people in our lives, or we just will say yes before we even have a moment to check and see, do we have money in the budget that we haven't spent in that category? Or you know what? This is my kryptonite right here is time blindness, underestimating the cost of it. So not just necessarily like the time, but also the emotional output, but also the financial part. So we can think, oh, well, we'll do, it'll only be a little bit. And then we get into the cycle of where we are emotionally spending so that we can feel connected to other people. So some of those things can really rear their ugly head, and it can also derail us from the things that the goals we have set for ourselves. So I want to make sure. So one of the things is you're not saying yes because you don't care about your financial goals. You're saying yes because you care deeply about your relationships. And there's absolutely that's what life is about interacting and engaging with the people in our lives and our loved ones. And so I'm not saying, abandon all of your relationships. I want to figure out and help you get to a spot where you can honor both of those, your financial goals and your relationships. But I want to unpack a little bit of what that cost can look like when we say yes all the time to things, even though the wise choice might be to say no. Or we can offer an alternate solution, which is what I want to really encourage you with, but we'll talk about that in a moment. So say for instance, okay, friend has a birthday, you guys go out for dinner, $65, right? Then you have coffee with a friend, that is $18 because it's never just coffee. We got to get a little extra with it. And then kids' birthday party, $40. Then baby shower, 55. And then girls' night, $90, $100. And then if you think about those things all in 1 month, that's over $250 that we have spent without actually realizing it. And so what I want to encourage you is to ask yourself, would you intentionally choose to delay becoming debt-free by another month so that you could do these things? And so when we play that game of, would you rather, most people in that scenario wouldn't choose that because we know and can recognize the amount of stress that we're under because of our financial burdens. And so getting out from underneath those as quickly as possible is usually our go-to answer. And so If that's what your answer would be also, let's talk about what this could look like. So, first off, here is a way that you can put some boundaries around this specific type of experience. So, one, just pause. So, this is a really great one too, especially I started doing this with my calendar because I'm really good at saying yes to so many things and then going, oh my gosh, there's no humanly possible way that this could happen. So the first step is just pause and don't give an answer right away. So that gives you time to process and go, this is something that I could do or something I couldn't do. And so, say, hey, I'm going to check my calendar and my budget first, and I'll get back to you in, the next day. And that gives you time to pause. Then the other thing is to check both your budgets. And you're like, wait a second, Jewlz, you haven't talked about the second budget before. So the first one is your financial budget, your money budget, the one that you make on a monthly basis and you check in every week to see everything is good. But then the energy budget, because this is something that I was really good at just running in the negative on, just like I was at one point with my money, analyzing your energy. Because this is something that I found in my journey. When I was depleted of my energy, it was much easier for me to make choices that didn't honor our financial goals. So when we are at our best with our energy, it's easier for us to make those decisions when we need to with our money if we have the good amounts of energy. And I know it's not always gonna be perfect, and that's why you set up this ADHD friendly money system so that it helps you on those days where your energy is low and your decision making is at an all-time low. Sometimes we have to stop because we might realize we have the money, but maybe we don't have the bandwidth. And so when we put those two things together, it's going to be a more enjoyable experience for yourself and for other people. So another thing is, so maybe you have the energy, but you don't have the financial part. What if you offered an alternative? And this is what we did with a lot of our friends and loved ones because, going out to dinner was something. So what is it? Okay, maybe it's you know what? I can't make dinner, but I'd love to take a walk next week. Or sometimes we would shift it. Instead of going out, we would have a little potluck thing at our house, so that we're still able to have the experience and the time together, but the activity might be shifted just a little bit from what you're used to. And so we like to say keep the eye on the prize. And at that point, the prize is keeping our financial goals in line, but also keeping our relationships going and moving forward and healthy. And so you don't have to necessarily share with everyone in your life that you're like, hey, we're trying to work on our finances. But you know what I found when I did that other people were like, oh my gosh, it was like, okay, good. I feel like that's something I wanted to do too. And that was the one that's like the big encouragement and big takeaway that I hope you get from today's episode is that sometimes we just have to be the person that's going first in the scenarios. And it might not be comfortable at first, but when you hear someone else say, oh yeah, I really wanted to do that too, but I didn't want to let you down. And so if we're both in relationships where we don't want to let other people down, but we're doing something we don't necessarily want to do or that honors all of our goals, then let's pause those things. Let's shift them. So maybe a friend invites you to brunch and say, hey, why don't we grab coffee instead? Maybe instead of buying gifts, this was a big one, is we told our family, you know what, we're really focused on this. So we will not be giving gifts for the next, I think it was a year at one point. We were like, we're not going to be giving gifts this year. And so we wanted to make sure we were really open with them and that we do not expect any gifts in return. And that we wouldn't be giving any because this was very important to us because it was causing so much stress in our lives. So we paused the gift giving. Some gifts still came in, and it was because the person that was giving the gift, that was their expression of joy and love, and we accepted those gracefully. And sometimes that part can feel really uncomfortable too. But being open and upfront and honest with the people in your lives, especially if you exchange gifts on a regular basis, is just letting them know where you are. You don't have to tell them, hey, I'm trying to get rid of $107,000, but hey, you know what? This is a new priority for us. Just like as if you were to reprioritize and put your health above other things. It's just an area that we can be upfront and honest with the people in our lives because our relationships don't have to have expensive activities attached to them. They can be experiences that cost very little or nothing at all. Or we could, downsize the amount of spending that we're doing. Like we said, the brunch, have coffee instead, or things like that. Maybe offer some other alternatives. All right. And then step 4. Take a step back and remember why you're doing this. So this is a big one, because when we say no to something, it means that we're able to say yes to something bigger and better later on. What I mean by that is when we say no to the small, coffee here or a lunch there or a dinner there or a concert here and there, even though we want to do those things and we want to have those experiences with people, that is putting a deposit into something bigger, like our freedom and our flexibility later on down the road, because you're working so hard to pay off debt and create an emergency fund. So those types of things, when we say no to them, they are giving us opportunities to say yes to a more peaceful life. They're allowing us to say yes to bigger and better things in the near future, because the stage that you're in right now is not forever. But the efforts that you put in now and this, and then when you say no to these smaller requests, it's going to allow you to say yes to something bigger in the future, like paying off that debt and saying goodbye to it and leaving that in the past. So, okay, so what do you do if offering an alternative isn't necessarily an option? So you could say something like, I'd love to, but it's not in my budget right now. And that's absolutely okay. This is one thing too that I have learned after many years of therapy. You don't have to offer an explanation beyond that. Especially if people know and love you, they will honor and respect that. And so, like I said before, they might just be waiting for someone else to say that so they can go, good, me too. You can say, you know what, we're focusing on paying off our debt this season. And a lot of people, so what I found in my journey is some people kind of looked at me like, okay, well, that's great for you. And then they were, some people were disappointed. Other people were very encouraging. You could get, a mix of responses. But overall, once we got to that spot too, people were just kind of watching and going, I want that too. And so there's been a lot of people that have joined us on this journey, not just on the podcast, but that have known us throughout our journey. But so sometimes being the first one to stand up and say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do life this way anymore with my money. You could be leading the path for other people in your life that you know and love, and encourage them. So a couple other quick ways that you can say thank you, but no thank you is I have to pass this time, but keep me in mind for another time. Or being intentional with our spending this year, so I'm going to have to pass. And so, like I said, we don't have to over explain all of those things, but if you still want to be included in things in the future, let them know that. Let them know that. That's very important. And you don't have to go into all of the dirty details of your finances, but just letting people know that that's where you're focusing right now is an important part of maintaining that relationship. This is not a forever thing. This is for a season. And so letting those loved ones know that this is, especially if they truly love you, they aren't measuring your friendship or your relationship by how much money you spend. But protecting your financial future is not selfish. It's responsible, and it's absolutely something that you can do. And you can do it in a kind, respectful way and still honor those relationships in your life. So if you're like, hey, I'm having some challenges with this, or maybe there's another financial challenge that you have that you're like, I just really need to talk to someone about this, I have borrow my brain sessions. And so we can go through how do you navigate this conversation? Maybe it's with a specific loved one that you have some relationship challenges with and you want to talk a little bit about that. I'm not a therapist, but I will share from my perspective things that worked and maybe, role play that conversation with you. Maybe there is another conversation or another financial challenge that you're having. I would absolutely love to have a quick 15-minute chat and help you get over that hurdle. So you can jump on my website, debtrebelpodcast.com, and it's also available in the show notes. You can check out a Borrow My Brain session, and it's just a 15-minute chat with me, and we'll go through it and solve that problem for you and get you through that hurdle. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope that this episode was encouraging, and I want you to remember that every intentional dollar is that a rebellion against debt. So when we make those intentional decisions, we are fighting for a better future for ourselves, for our families, and we're also building trust with our brain. So we'll see you in the next episode.